The life and works of Dorothea Lange. Dorothea Lange was a photographer and photojournalist who pursued her passion for documenting people and real moments of life. She and her works became known by their dramatic compositions as well as for the powerful effect they had on viewers. What started out as an interest for her led Lange to a career and a legacy. Born and raised in New Jersey, Dorothea Nutzhorn Lange was an average middle-class child. Her father, Heinrich Nutzhorn, was a lawyer, while her mother, Johanna Lange, was a stay-at-home mom. Her parents were each advocates of her education and exposed her to literature and the creative arts early on during childhood. At the age of 7, Dorothea Lange contracted polio disease. This disease was a contagious viral illness that caused nerve injury, paralysis, difficulty breathing, and even death. Lange's case of polio weakened her right leg, causing her to walk with a limp. She claimed that polio was the most important thing that had happened to her because it formed, guided, instructed, helped, and humiliated her. Just before becoming a teenager, Dorothea's father, Heinrich Nutzhorn, left her family. After the divorce, Dorothea blamed her father so much that she no longer wanted to carry his last name. She took on her mom's maiden name, officially becoming Dorothea Lange. They moved in with her grandmother, who was a creative seamstress and who later influenced Dorothea's artistic views that she one day used in photography. After completing high school, Lange decided to study at the New York Training School for Teachers in 1913. However, Lange quickly found that education was not her interest, so she turned her focus to photography. She later went on to study art at Columbus University. Seeking more knowledge within photography, Lange contacted successful photographers such as Arnold Genthe and Clarence White. They taught her skills of trade, how to make proofs, how to retouch pictures, and how to mount them. While in a photography class with Clarence White, Lange learned to photograph everyday objects with a new perspective of truly seeing them. This skill was one she later carried over into her career. After furthering her education in photography, Dorothea Lange and her actress friend, Florence Bates, traveled. Ending up in San Francisco, they supported themselves with Lange's skill in photography. While there, Lange and her friend were robbed. They lost all of their money, so they had no other choice than to stay in San Francisco for some period of time. Regardless of the unfortunate circumstances that led Lange to stay in San Francisco, Lange decided to make the most of her time there. After meeting numerous gallery patrons and wealthy business owners, Lange made beneficial and professional connections with them. She was able to open up her own portrait photography studio in San Francisco during 1919 at the age of 24. Sometime later, Lange met muralist Maynard Dixon. They got married and started a life together. In the 1920s, Dixon and Lange traveled with one another around the Southwest, each working within their own element. Dixon would paint such things as Native Americans, while Lange photographed them. This is one point at which Lange's documentary photography career took off. During the 1930s and the Great Depression era, Lange saw the effects of financial hardship on the people around her, causing her to become dissatisfied with her portraiture work. She then decided to take on documentary photography in hopes to produce a social change. She went to the streets of San Francisco, the West Coast, the South, and Midwest and photographed suffering and poverty, as well as damage from Dust Bowl migration camps, labor strikes, and bread lines. After pursuing documentary photography in San Francisco and capturing the adversity there, Lange was asked to assist university professor and labor economist Paul Taylor on a study for the Farm Security Administration. The two traveled together as a team in which Taylor wrote reports on rural hardship while Lange photographed it. Taylor later became Lange's second husband. Lange's work was often close-ups and powerful compositions. She captured farmers in their empty crops as well as mothers and their hungry children. Lange was known to be patient and personal with those in her images before actually photographing them. This allowed her to get very raw, intimate, and informative images like that of the migrant mother. Some images even had captions from the very conversations Lange held with those who were pictured. Lange's career furthered when she was hired by the Office of War Information during World War II, in which she photographed the internment of Japanese Americans, and again in 1945 when she documented the San Francisco Conference that created the United Nations. Some of Lange's images during that time were so powerful and controversial regarding the war that she was not able to see them for 20 years. Apart from the OWI, Dorothea Lange took part in photojournalism assignments for other big-name companies like Life magazine and Fortune magazine. Aside from this, Lange also co-founded a small publishing house that made high-end photography books. This business was named Aperture. In 1940, Dorothea Lange became the first woman to receive a Guggenheim Fellowship Award given to individuals that demonstrate exceptional creative ability in the arts. Lange also received other honors and rewards for her notorious works. Her image, Migrant Mother, now hangs in the Library of Congress, while some of her works appear in the Family of Man exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art. Lange chose to take a break from professionally doing photography for some time. During this small period, she taught photography at the California School of Fine Arts within the Golden Decade. She taught with techniques and methods from her former teacher, Clarence White. Shortly after teaching this course, she chose to work within photography again, even though her health began to diminish. Lange was able to collaborate with New York's Museum of Modern Art on her very first solo exhibition. Along with this, Lange published numerous books with her work and wisdom, such as Photographs of a Lifetime, Impounded, Aperture Masters of Photography, and An American Exodus. In 1945, Lange was diagnosed with gallbladder disease. Later, she learned that she had been misdiagnosed and was then diagnosed with esophageal cancer instead. This brought her much trouble and pain to eat and swallow, but even so, she and her husband made trips to Asia, South America, and the Middle East until she passed in October of 1965. After living an influential life, several awards have been set up in Dorothea Lange's name. For example, there is a Lange Taylor Prize for Excellence in Documentary Studies, as well as the Lange Fellowship for Documentary Photography. There is a school named in honor of Lange, and she has also been inducted into the California Hall of Fame. Dorothea Lange leaves behind a legacy for independent women photographers much like myself. She made an impact with the reality she documented with her camera, and she brought much understanding to many people about real life and the pain it can oftentimes bring. All the while, her images were powerful, strong, and beautiful, just as she herself was.